Hi everyone, Chris Canada here. If you've joined me before, welcome back, and if it's your first time, I'm glad you stopped by. I wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about something called compassion fatigue. It's something that therapists in the mental health field are very familiar with. We are at risk, depending on the populations we work with, of suffering from compassion fatigue on an ongoing basis. It even has an official definition. The American Institute of Stress defines it as the emotional residue or strain of being exposed to anyone who is suffering the consequences of trauma. And while the global pandemic might not seem like a trauma to some because they may contract the virus and never have symptoms, it's very traumatic for those that find themselves in a life-threatening episode of the illness. But who's at risk for the compassion fatigue right now? Mostly our healthcare providers. Our doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, first responders, those people who are witnessing the traumatic consequence of this illness for some people. And when I thought about the definition, coupled with some of the stories I'm hearing from the healthcare professionals and how exhausted they are, I thought it was important to address. So what does compassion fatigue look like if you're suffering from it or at risk? Well, it takes on several different manifestations. In our thought life, it starts to sound like self-doubt. People start to question their own effectiveness in the very care that they're giving. Sometimes it can make them question the meaning of life or their usefulness as a person. Physically, it can lead to exhaustion, insomnia, loss of appetite. It can even show up in our body as aches and pains. We can even become dizzy and disoriented if it's severe enough. And emotionally, if left unaddressed, it can lead to anxiety or severe depression, even suicidal thoughts at times. So how do we prevent compassion fatigue or intervene if we think we're in that place? Well, first of all, get used to checking in with your body on a daily basis. Know what it feels like when your body feels thirsty or hungry or just needs rest. Maybe your body feels so tensed it needs physical exercise to release that tension or to build your physical stamina again. It's important to be so familiar with ourselves that every day we can assess those needs and find a way to meet them for ourselves. Secondly, let go of expectations, those high expectations you place on yourself when you're in the role of care provider. Now that's a catch-22. Caregivers give care out of a strong sense of empathy and dedication to others. And it's hard to admit we have limitations. But having limitations is part of being human. And it's okay to let go of those expectations for a time so that we can build the emotional stamina we need to pick them back up again. And thirdly, create balance in your life. Some caregivers will tell me they feel guilty going and relaxing or having fun after they've just sat with somebody who's struggling with their last breath. They say it just doesn't feel right. But it's important to create that balance, whether it's engaging in a hobby or just sitting with a friend, laughing, or just being quiet. It's okay to have those moments for just you. It'll actually make you a better caregiver because you'll have that balance. And lastly, process those thoughts and feelings with someone you trust, whether it's a therapist or a friend or a family member, or maybe you even just journal what you're thinking and feeling on any given day. Building those thoughts and emotions up inside of us can create that tension that leads to the physical manifestation of the fatigue. So moving those things through us in a trusted space is important. Telling our story is important. So if you or someone you know thinks that you're suffering compassion fatigue, it's okay to reach out to a therapist. You can find many resources on the internet. The American Institute of Stress, stress.org, has resources for you to know how to manage that kind of stress inside you. I really am proud of our healthcare providers. I have one in my own family, a nurse who's helping now in the wake of the pandemic. And I just wish the best for all of them. We depend on them and we're proud of them. And I want them to feel as good about themselves as we feel about their presence. So until the next time I check in, Stay safe, stay wise, and take care of yourself.